So welcome to court, and the jury is set. I've got two ladies and one gentleman. It's going to be a great afternoon. We had a discussion last Saturday on job loss, and we really could not exhaust the thoughts that we had concerning that. So we decided to have a part two of it, not just to focus on what has been happening, but what could happen as well. So we'll be going forward from where we stopped last Saturday. Of course, with one change, I've got one particular guest who is new to the set, wasn't in last week. I'll introduce that. Before we do that, I want to see who's online as well. I can see Esther Azing. Esther, it's good to have you. Yes, you were with us last week. And Dominica Teller and Kelvin Ongori and Jedida and Ernest and each and every one of you who's joining. Let us know that you are joining us already, and if you can, go ahead and host a watch party. Tag your friends, your family, tag everyone that you know that would need this discussion just to help them. Martin Okwach, King Reinhard, Prince Reinhard Atella, each and every one of you that is tuning in, we appreciate you. I'm just giving you a minute so that you can tag everyone that you know. Well, we are live from the CJ's Court page, CJ Temo page, and the Covenant channel. And we're coming to you from the Pete's Cafe, Pete's Connected Coffee. This is on Chania Avenue at the Highland Suites as well. A place where you'd find good ambience. We've been here, several weeks as well. And it's always so beautiful, ever new, ever fresh. You want to have coffee, want to hang out with your family, your friends. On Fridays, they've got this, their special is the chicken biryani, so you can come in and have the chicken biryani as well. But even as we're getting ready to get started, let me just introduce our guests. Of course, you must have seen the flyer, but I've got Pauline Mwatu, who's a managing partner with Foresight Global.
Correct.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
Bright.
Thank you so much.
And I won't say why. I want to, you're looking very bright.
Okay.
Stanclaus, that's Goldsmith.
Goldman
Smith.
Yes.
All right. I don't know why you chose a very exotic name for your company.
Yeah, I mean, it's a branding tactic.
Okay.
You want to stand out. I have nothing against Kimani or Kimani advocates, but I think Goldman Smith has more ring to it.
Okay. Yeah. And then she's coming in for the first time today, and that is Patricia Obiero, who runs on Facebook as Patricia Speaks. And then I don't want to mention the name of your company because it's German, right? And I don't want to mess up.
Yes, it's called beliebt.
Okay.
Beliebt, it simply means favored.
All right.
Favored, yes.
All right, but I didn't want to mess up with the pronunciation and then begin to, chew my tongue right over there. Well, it's good to have each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Something that happened earlier on today. On a sad note, though, is that there's one of the greatest entertainers in this country who passed on today. Still don't have the details, but we want to pass our condolences to the family and to the fraternity out there, the actors, the friends, to Charles Bukeko, Papa Shirandula, who built a name around himself just on the screens and entertaining people for so many years. Yeah, so we want to send out that to you out there. Stanclaus, how was your week?
Our week has been great.
Right.
This particular week was very busy. Man, I've been having very late nights and early mornings. I remember we spoke I think on Thursday. On Thursday I had an all-nighter. So it's really been quite a...
You've not given the whole story. Like I called you 2 days before that and you returned the call after 48 hours.
It's been crazy. Let's just say it's been crazy, but here we are. All right, moving forward.
All right.
Okay.
Pauline, how was your week?
I don't know what level your craziness was, but I think mine was more crazy because I think the economy is opening right now, and we are getting people calling and asking for, consultancy jobs. And I'm glad to say that this week has been what people say, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
So we are seeing that light coming in. So that has been my week.
We actually need that light.
Yes.
I think some people will already, there are people who had some savings at the beginning, people who had some backup initially, but getting into the month of July, some of them were feeling like this thing needs to open up.
Yeah.
If it doesn't open up, then they wouldn't have any resource.
Yes.
Patricia, how was your week?
Just like the two of them have said, I agree with Pauline that the economy is opening up. So my week was also busy but manageable.
Okay.
And that means that people are calling and asking for work or for training services.
Okay.
So far, so good.
So you're all involved in training. So nobody called me for training this week. Nobody called me for training at all. But I started my week 1 in class with the first assignment. It's so crazy.
Wow. Oh, you're back to school now, eh?
Yes.
Great.
Congratulations.
Which
Yeah.
schools are closed until January 2020?
Yes, I've gone online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
It doesn't close there.
Congratulations, man.
That's
What
great.
did
HR, management and development.
Okay.
And I need to add in a global context.
Wow.
Yeah, but I went back to school. So want to go all the way and see what is going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing news, man.
Yeah. We started this discussion on job loss. Gloria Minor tuned in, King Rainhead as well, Joe Yeshua, Philip Aguero, Wando, Eric Binges is watching. Thank you all for tuning in. But we started this discussion on job loss. And Stanclaus, by the time we were closing, we were saying we hadn't pushed it forward because we had just talked about the people who've lost their jobs and how that affects them and the impact of that on the family. But we did not talk about now what do people do when they have lost their jobs.
Yeah, actually, that's the side chat we had,
Right.
and because we spent a lot of time discussing what has happened,
Right.
but we were not really giving some keys of what then can you do with the present circumstance, because something can be done and other people are doing it. Why not you as well?
Right.
So I think that's the ethos of what we want to really talk about today. What do you do after we have now gone through the downturn? What next?
Because we can't be moaning about it forever.
Yeah.
We can't be talking about what has affected us forever.
Yeah.
We have to find a way forward.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you were to look at a kid, you see kids are very interesting because they're able to model life, albeit without necessarily intending to do so. If you see a kid going through trauma, the kid will cry properly.
Right.
But at some point, the kid will keep quiet, will stop crying, wipe their tears and stand up and, get to play or something like this.
Yeah.
And this is how life ought to be as well. There is a time for crying, but the crying cannot last so long. If anything, if you cry for so long, your eyes will even start paining you. So you have to, at some point, wipe your tears now, get up and move forward.
All right. Pauline, you're saying that the economy is opening up. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
Let me start from where Stan stopped. I mean, when you cry, your eyes will start aching. You forgot to say that your head will also ache. And that's not the route we want to go. So by me saying the economy is opening up, it's about the mindset of people. And what I've witnessed right now is people have started now relooking and saying, I've been quiet, I've been in darkness for so long, but let me awaken. It's all here.
Right.
It's all in the mindset. And every one of us right now is waking up. I mean, there's traffic everywhere. And you wonder, okay, where did Corona go? Where did COVID-19 go? But everybody is like, I have to set my mind. I have a goal. I have a vision. And that's why I think Kenyans have started waking up. So that's where we are right now. And that's why I said the economy is trying to open up right now.
All
Yeah.
right. Do you think that if that happens, then some people will be getting some jobs as well?
I first of all think that job loss is not new to us.
Okay.
This is something that has been happening over
point,
time.
yeah.
Oh, of course.
Even when you look at the history of our supermarkets, before we had Jack and Jill, then we came to Uchumi, and then the elephant went down, and now we have something else. So it's not new. All that was job loss. And some of the reasons why our parents even went back up country is because they lost their job. Then from there now they had to come with action steps on the things that they need to do. In 2019, we had organizations that just dropped their workers.
Yes.
Organizations like Stanbic, I think they had 255 workers who were laid off.
Yeah, right.
Then we had Telcom, who had double that number, and the list is endless. So it is not new to us. But I think the reason why it hurts people more now is because there is an underlying issue. We already have an environmental obstacle that is affecting us, and so when job loss comes on top of that, you feel this is too much. But it's something that we've lived with for a long time.
I thought that this one then would become easier because you can actually blame it not on your performance. You can say, guys are being laid off because of COVID. If I was laid off like in 2019, 2018, then I've got to answer why.
Yeah.
I lost the job. Was it my performance? What was it? But now in COVID, I'm thinking I can just excuse myself everywhere and say, our company was downsizing.
Loss itself is very painful.
Right.
It's like in a relationship. When you are the one who has left the other person, you can go around and scream about it. But if you're the one who's been
Who's been
jilted,
left.
it hurts.
I don't think so.
So if
Unless
you-
the relationship was fake. Wait a minute. Are you saying that you can just date somebody for long and then you dump them and you are okay? I think you are a very fake person. Be that as it may, sorry for jumping in. Yeah, I wanted to say something on that, on what you just said.
But I understand what Patricia is saying.
Yes.
Psychologically, even if you're hurting,
Yeah.
you'll be saying, I'm the one who walked out.
Yes. I wasn't
Really?
jilted, yes.
Okay, I don't have so
I
much to say
resigned.
about
You'll be saying, I'm the one who resigned.
True.
Stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
That makes sense from that point of view.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Reason being, we have this projected self. In marketing, we say we have you as Patricia, or as Stan, as Pauline, as Reverend Chris, but you have a projected self.
Okay.
And that projected self makes sense to many people. And I don't want to meet you guys and tell you I was laid off.
All
All right.
I was not performing.
I resigned has more.
No. I resigned, or
I'm moving on.
I'm moving on as a consultant. I'm opening my own farm
Yeah.
because that projected self, that image I want to be seen outside there,
Yeah.
that's what I want to protect. And that's where we are. And I think that's why Patricia says it hurts so much to explain that. So you have to cover yourself behind the projected self.
Is that why people say I'm in a transition?
Yes, that's why people say that.
I'm in a transition, I'm in the midst of something. Sorry, Stan, we cut you off.
Yeah,
but-
I wanted to say that you will notice that in this life, many people are really they're really concerned about the form. Very few people are concerned about the substance.
Alright.
But ultimately, if you're going to make consistent progress, you have to come to a place where you're concerned about what exactly it is more than how it looks like.
Okay.
Right? So the conversations around, it was not my fault that I was laid off, it was the pandemic and so on. That begins to tell me, first, you don't have a sense of purpose. Two, there is no plan in your life. There are no milestones you're hitting, because when you begin to say, it was not my fault, it was the pandemic. What's happening to your personal goals? How are you paying school fees, for example, right? Because excuses will not pay school fees. I think an important second key, because last week I talked a lot about purpose. I think a second key must be the idea that change is constant. That in this life you are always changing. Every year you're gaining a year, you're becoming a year older, right? Your children are growing, or you're moving from a relationship to a marriage, or you're moving from a marriage to a marriage with kids, or you're moving from a marriage with kids to a marriage without kids because the kids have lost you, have left you, and they've gone to their houses and so on, right? So change management then becomes a very important idea for anybody who's going to achieve any kind of success, because the only constant that you have in this life that is every day is change. If you come to the CBD right now, you notice there's a lot of changes, right? And even those businesses that call themselves so-called storefront must begin to re-examine does having a storefront shop matter anymore? Because right now it's more like phone shop, right? Everybody is on phone, and the only thing that those shops are being used for in town, other than selling clothes, is just stores, right? So I'm selling my handbags, but when you want to pick, I tell you come to Tomboya Street, this shop, and so on and so forth. So how we navigate change becomes more important than the change itself.
If I pick what you're talking about, so we actually need to be bracing ourselves for more job losses?
Absolutely, because what has happened now is that people have discovered that business cannot be business as usual. Real guys have realized, wait a minute, we've been operating with a lot of inefficiencies. We've been operating with a lot of dead weight. We've been operating with a lot of so-called, you know, many years assumptions, right? Our policies have been based on the status quo for a long time. And now the pandemic has shattered all that. I saw a tweet by the CEO of Twitter, and he says that their employees will work from home forever. So it is not business as usual, and I don't think it's going to ever be business as usual anymore.
But Stan, also, I agree with you, but let me just add this. If you've ever been in full-time employment, employment is a mind-controlling system. I like the words of Dr. Miles Monroe. He said that your job is what they pay you to do. That's 8 to 5, ideally. And then after that, from 5 onwards, it's your work. And work is what you are created to do. That's now purpose. So someone has to be extremely intentional. And you see, sometimes you find some people, a boss calls you on Sunday, on your off day, and you stand still. You're actually thinking, what does he want to tell me? You're already in that defense mode. So that is what employment does to us. But now someone has to be intentional, like you're saying, and say, okay, fine, I am employed. Maybe I have already lost my job right now. I'm in the verge of losing the job, or I am still at work, but what else can I do? So that in case I lose this job, then I have a soft landing.
Okay. It's good to bring that concept, because I know most of us here have heard about the hustling economy. You have your job, but you're doing something. You have an office, it can be 8 to 5 office work, but in your boot you have shoes you're selling. In your boot you have fruits, you have potatoes you're selling. That's a side hustle. I mean, is there, I tell people, when you have your job, 8 to 5, don't neglect your side hustle. That is a soft landing space, and you brought it very clearly. But I think for us, for us, our mindset is the job. And I think somebody, was it Richard, the owner of Virgin Atlantic, said, if you rely on your employment so much, then you're going to die poor.
I agree.
Because you're not thinking beyond that employment. You're thinking about, you're making somebody else richer. Now, this is the time to start thinking about, how can I make myself richer? Success is expensive, by the way. You talked about success. And I remember just listening to Steve Harvey and saying, being successful is very hard. Being not successful is very harder. The good thing about being success is that there's a reward. What is the reward? There's monetary reward. There's respect. I mean, we are seated right now, but if Chris Kirubi walks in here, or name somebody else, TD Jakes walks right now, I mean, their show can be in the standstill, because these are people that carry power in itself. These are people who have made brands of themselves. They're successful. So success has a reward. And this is where we need to start thinking about success. How can I become successful? And not lament all the time about job loss.
Wait, Pauline, you know, you're talking about the element of, if you work for somebody, you make them rich. So now we need to begin making ourselves rich.
Correct.
Now, where do I then get the human resource? Because then the other person will be thinking then they're making me rich.
Okay, that's a very good thought, by the way. But what I'm trying to say is that let's not think about, I'm going to work for this company for 30, 40 years until I retire. That's the kind of thinking we have. Let me bring another twist to this discussion. Let's concentrate on the millennials. These are the people getting jobs right now. I mean, if you're 45 and above and you're looking for employment and you're writing your CV, I mean, people are looking at you and thinking, why didn't you start 15 years ago? Millennials are the corner.
I was talking to somebody earlier on, sorry to cut you short, and I said that's a discussion we need to have one of these days. Like, is there age discrimination when it comes to...
There is definitely an age discrimination. I ran interviews. This was November of 2019, and I was trying to recruit an accountant. And of course, nobody has any bias, right? But so we did interviews, and then there's this lady who showed up. And she's 47. And of course, you know, there's some shock. You get a bit shocked. You're like, first of all, okay, fine. We are paying $400 for this particular job. You are 47. How does this work? Like, where it's expected that if you are good at your craft, right now you should be like C-suite level, right? You're a chief finance officer somewhere. You are director of finance.
You don't think that's discrimination?
It is not discrimination. It is what. Let me tell you what it is. What it is this. What it is you are going home. You are 19 years. You're from high school, and in this same match that you are in, you see a 67-year-old also is seated with you. Of course, you ask yourself questions. Okay, so you've worked your whole life, you couldn't buy a car. Why is it that you are driving right now? There are questions that we have to ask. The problem is this. In this life, nobody wants to be told that they are failing. This is just the this is the truth of the matter. Nobody wants to be told
Stan,
you should be further.
It also depends on what kind of job this person was.
I know you want to come with this thing of definition and so on, yeah. But there is financial success, there is social success, mental success, etc. But the most pronounced is financial, regretfully, right? Because where you stay is purely based on your. It is your where you stay is your. This is the reflection of your hands. You can say the economy is difficult, you can say it is a pandemic, you can say I didn't get the level of education I required, etc. But all those things can change.
All right. So we go back to Pauline. You're talking about the millennials.
Yeah, I was talking about the millennials. And look at the top 3 employers. Top is P&G. They've been ranked like the top employer. Top employer in terms of they're the best employers. In terms of pay, in terms of how they take care of the employees. Look at who they recruit.
I can't get a job there.
Millennials, they will not give you a job there for
Who is the
caring.
youngest CEO in Africa right now? She's from P&G. And that's where companies are concentrating. And for me to say that, you know, when you start thinking that you have to work for a company for 30, 40 years, I mean, think about yourself. You need also to grow out of it. You need to actually develop yourself. And it all starts here. Mindset. It all starts here on your mindset. I know you talked about resources. There's a lot of resources that need to be there, but also more importantly than those resources, than that capital, than human resources, technology and all that, it's your mindset. It's like a race. We're starting a race, all of us. We're lined together. And before we hear on your marks, get set, we've all thought about the end line. All of us, whether we are 10 or we are 5 or we are whatever number that they take in a race, we all have a mindset. The finish line. And that's where we need to start, all of us.
I couldn't agree more.
I like what you're saying about mindset, because the moment employers are recruiting, they look at the resume.
Of course.
And they look at you and they say, there's something you have that we need.
Correct.
So you have value even before you go to them.
That's
of course. Now, when you get laid off, that value does not go down.
That's true.
If anything, it actually goes up, because maybe you've been trained, you have learned so much in there. So I think the mindset should also change, so that we just don't sit back and think, now I have been laid off. So my life has come to an end. Because fear, it doesn't kill, fear, it kills death. It doesn't kill death, it kills life.
Okay.
Yes.
That's powerful. Talk about mindset. Have you noticed that if you walked into the house of an average Kenyan man, what do you see first, other than fancy seats? You see a big TV.
Television?
A big TV, you're right.
It is constant in all houses. Tell me, where did you ever walk in and you were sure, my goodness, what a size of a library? Of course, you'll tell me, nowadays it's Kindle and so on. We are online. Show us your books, right? Many people want to get into business. They have never read even one business book, right? Many people want to get into consultancy. They can't even spell consultancy.
And I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into that. But there's this lady, is this Jem Dutanzola? My biggest lesson this season is this: V1, treat yourself as a business. As a business owner, you'll keep reinventing the business to suit the changes in the market in that same way. If you're laid off with such a mentality, you'll easily rebrand, which is something you kept on talking about, Stan, last week.
Yes.
You'll easily rebrand, recreate, and revamp yourself to suit the new normal. And eventually, it will be to your good. But I agree with her. But then I'm going to come back into the generational issue. It is easier to reinvent yourself when you're 30. Now, when you're talking about somebody who is at the 47, 53, they've been laid off. I think that is the group that is most affected when they lose their jobs. Because for the person who is 25, 30, they can actually even go out and dare and start something because they have the energy. They really have the support system. Probably most of their age mates are also doing something, the hustler nation you're talking about. But then you're 53, you see Stan already said, I'll be looking at you and wondering, what have you done with your life? So what do you think happens to this person when they're having their own conversations? They've lost this job at 53, at 48, and then they're going to meet a Stan who's talking the way he's talking right now. Like, what have you done with your life? Do you think that generational issue is such a huge issue in reinventing?
Let me just say something here.
Yeah.
Life is an echo. And life gives you what you give it.
Okay.
You give distress to life, it gives you distress back. You give negative thoughts, life gives it back to you.
Right.
And at that age, allow me to answer you with an example. 2 weeks ago, I met, and by the way, as a side hustle, I sell property.
Okay.
That's a side hustle that
Your
I do.
side hustle is property. What's your main hustle?
Guys, you've got to redefine what side hustle is.
So I sell houses, by the way.
Yeah.
So I met this Somali guy, and if the sons are watching, allow me to share this story.
Yeah.
Because actually it was thought-provoking. And Mr. Haji, that is his name, he owns Miller's company. He's one of the leading millers in Kenya. And he told me, Pauline, I never stepped in a classroom setting. I don't know even how a school looked like. I was only herding goats and camels in Garissa for the longest. And wait a minute, at around 40-something, when I've married, I sat down and said, what am I doing? My kids are school fees. I can't afford by selling goats, by selling camels.
Yeah.
He started a small kiosk outside. And people copied him. A lot of people, Kenya, we have that generation of copycats.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yes, yes. So what he did, he said, a lot of my neighbors have opened kiosks. So what will I do? Let me open a mini market. Okay. 2 neighbors copied him. So he said, what is it? Then again he said, what can I do? Just thinking beyond them. He started a distributor shop, sort of. So he'd buy a wholesale shop. So the mini markets and the kiosk owners will buy from him.
Yeah.
Then wait a minute. A little later, one of the neighbors saw he's doing very well.
Yeah.
Came from Isiolo, opened next to him a wholesale shop. So he told me, Pauline, there I realized I need to be bright. So I said, one of the commodities that is moving every day is maize flour. How can I just go to Nairobi or any town and start milling flour? He came to Nairobi at around 50-something age.
Wow.
Right now, the guy, he's 80, I think Mr. Haji is 88, around there.
Yeah.
Years old.
Yeah.
He tells me, I've never sat one-on-one with a teacher.
Yeah.
But that intuitive thinking,
Right.
that thinking ahead,
Right.
and that not giving up, that mindset I was talking about has helped me to be where I am.
Amazing.
My kids are in States.
Yeah.
Let me just bring out that.
Yes.
And Pauline keeps on giving us examples that make us look like,
Like, what are we doing?
Because last week she was talking about razor blades, now she's talking about maize flour.
My
Yes.
The very common things, the things that
Yes.
nobody would think that would really
Yes.
give them money.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But Patricia, you see, the gentleman had never worked anywhere.
Yes.
Do you think that was an advantage because he had nothing to lose, as opposed to somebody who has been working for a bank and then they're laid off at 53, then they have nothing to show. Don't you think that if you have worked and then you start from that point, you have more to overcome than for somebody who started while hustling?
I think
Wait, Dad.
after you ladies first.
Thank you. I think yes and no, because
Alright.
it depends. I feel it depends. Self-motivation is something that we all need,
Okay.
but we all do not have it. So it depends with how self-motivated you are. It depends with your personality, and then I also think it depends with your circle of influence, your network.
Alright.
Because this could be as your support system.
Okay.
Because what really happens, the truth, what is really practical out there is that there are people at 47 or 50, they have been laid off, they pick up, and then there are people who never recover. They just die. It's like they died internally.
Alright.
They just die. So I think it depends with the person,
Yeah.
it depends with their personality, and it depends with their network. Because these are the people who can push you.
All right.
Yeah, for you to even look for another job or for you to start a business.
Okay, Stan.
To take any journey effectively, there are only 2 things that are required. One is to know the journey, right? If you are going to Mombasa, you cannot face your car towards Naivasha, right? And the problem is sometimes you're going to coast. Pauline told me I'm going to coast, and you're going towards Naivasha. Then I'm like, boss, that's not the way to coast. The way to coast is this other side. So all of a sudden you see like Elementaita, okay? And then you say, you know what, in as much as definitely this is not the way to coast, at least this is like Elementaita. Water is water, yeah? So psychologically, that is called the law of escalating commitment. The more on the wrong side you are, the more committed to that wrong side you are. So I was talking about when you want to go anywhere, you want to know where you're going.
Right.
Then number 2, you want to talk about the means of how to get where you are going.
Right.
Okay? Now, that is self-awareness. That if you know, for example, that I'm going for a park ride, okay, in as much as a Vitz can take you for a park ride, and when you go to the park with a Vitz, nobody will deny you entry. You won't be so effective because you'll need to go off-road, you will need to chase down the animals and so on. Most probably you'll get stuck in the park. And that's the problem of many of us, because the journey, the clarity of the journey is there. And let's say peradventure, you somehow know the direction that you want to take. Okay? Just the same way if you're building a 6-story house, the foundation is different from when you're building a normal house. So what you want to do is somewhat clear. The methodologies which many people don't want to interrogate. Right? So I think if you're 23, if you're 33, 43, 53, 63, 7, the idea is that you have to appreciate what methodology is required, what instruments do I need to go where I need to go. Then at that point you can conduct a very quick self-evaluation and see, do I have what it takes? So that you can decide whether you are going with employees or you are going with partners. Because what begins to happen is in corporate governance you are told that if you are going to constitute a board, all these board members must have different skills, but necessary skills to the business. So it doesn't help you having 2 accountants in the board. So you want to have somebody in finance, you want to have somebody in HR, you want to have somebody in strategy, you want to have somebody in marketing and sales and so on. So once you do that self-evaluation at 53, for instance, and you realize, oh wait, I want to start a milling company. I can promise you for sure that this Mzee is not the one who bought the equipment. Somebody else helped him buy the equipment. I can tell you for sure he's not the one who decided the packaging. Somebody else helped him come up with the package. I can tell you for sure. For him, the most important was the what. So defining the what anybody can do at any time. But the how, you need some counsel so that you get the methodology right. Now, getting the methodology right will determine either if you make money or you lose money, whether you become very happy shortly or you completely enter into depression.
Well, in some of the house, I know you're big in marketing research.
Yes.
So talk to me about some of the house that Stan would be alluding to.
I think one of the biggest how is our imagination, because our imagination gives us a vision. And even the Bible talks about vision, and in the book of Habakkuk too, talks about, do you have a vision?
Absolutely.
Write it down. So that starts with a vision. The problem with us, a lot of us, is that we have the imagination, but we share it with the wrong people. For instance, you gave a good example. I'm going to Mombasa. Then I come and meet somebody who is a fake friend. And I tell my fake friend that I'm taking my Vitz, I'm going to Mombasa. They start telling me by the time you reach Salama, your car will break down. By the time you reach Mtoandeng, you will not have any engine. The engine would have fallen down. So those are the negativities. So it starts with how. So you build your how. So in market research, we start with a business issue. And that's what we call a brief. So it's like a circle of events. So now your brief is your imagination. So you sit down and have this document that summarizes, I want to develop this, I want to come up with this particular product. Let me call it product X. So you sit down and think about product X. Who do I want to target? Where do I want to position my product? What is my pricing?
So there are no emotions there, right?
There are no emotions at all.
Business based on emotions, right?
No, there are no emotions, because when you bring emotions, you start bringing fear.
Absolutely.
You start bringing fear, you start bringing, I need to step in and just look at, will I afford, you start having these negativities. So it's more of technical.
All right.
So you have all the whys and the hows, which, and all of that. So you've sat down and brought this brief. So what else? That brief also has a vision. And a mission to it. Why are you doing it that particular moment? Where do you want to move? And those are the questions that you lay down. Then you have an objective, very precise, time-bound, achievable. So those are the objectives that you want to achieve. Then after that, you've laid all down. Now you give to the professionals.
Okay. Do you do that? You just need to do that by yourself, right?
We have
the brief,
professionals who,
before you get to the professionals,
yes,
you can do that. You need to do that by yourself, sit down by yourself, or you get some other people to help you.
It's very simple. And how is it simple? Allow me just to give a simple example here. Stan, before we started offline, you said you're single guy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you won't
Did you just
say,
have to say that on social media?
yeah. I wanted to say that because the example is about a single person. And you go to church, and in church, you spot this beautiful lady in the church.
Okay.
And you realize...
In church or elsewhere?
In church.
Yeah.
I'm giving an example just to bring the answer home.
Right.
So you spot this particular lady, and apparently you come for the 9 o'clock service. But this time you were late a little bit, you came for the 11 o'clock service. So you spotted at 11 o'clock service. That is an interest you started trying to get. So you have a vision to get that lady.
Got it.
So now you start changing from coming from 9 o'clock, you start coming to 11 o'clock. You realize she sits in front.
You've
You
adjusted
sit.
behavior.
You sit behind. You adjust your behavior.
Yeah.
You start sitting
I
in
like
front.
this
You see.
example. Yeah.
So those are objectives. You're laying them down. Very practical, very achievable, very smart objectives. So you sit next. What is the next time? Saying hi. And the story continues. That is a simple structure of how market research can be. It's just gathering information and taking action out of it. Just to answer your question.
Okay. And so from that particular point, then you need to find professionals who can help you.
Yes, but let me also say that sometimes when you're depending on the kind of company, research can be expensive for startups.
Okay.
What you need to know is just basic information gathering.
Yeah.
That for a startup. Then when you reach where you can spend money now, because it's expensive, and research says that SMEs, a lot of them and startups, just lock up after before 3 years.
Yeah, under
because
3 years.
yeah, under 3 years, because it's very expensive. If you're starting up a company, I would advise that try to get information yourself.
Okay.
Yes, and after when you've just broken even, you're making profit, get a professional. You've expanded your market footprints, get a professional. But when you're starting, this is information that you can gather for yourself.
Makes sense.
And Pauline, allow me to, after Patricia.
I want to
I know
start
you're so ready to jump in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Pauline, allow me to add to what you have said about how.
Yes.
I believe that performance appraisal shouldn't be left at organization level only. You should also do it as a person.
Yes.
You appraise yourself.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Then that will, after you appraise yourself, you come to what Stan was saying, self-awareness.
Yes.
When you're more aware, then now you can go to the steps that you were talking about. And that way you just kick off immediately.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think Chris brought an issue where he was asking, so do you have to engage professionals? Yeah? Now, of course, engaging professionals is a good idea, but it's not the only idea, all right? Notice that in this life, one of the most important things is encounters. Even us seated here is results of encounters, yeah? Because you is your father meeting your mom at a particular place and so on. So I've come to this place where I believe that relationship is a stronger currency than hard cash, right? So so relationships is very, very important. Now, defining the what is very intuitive. Right? I mean, you can just feel that this is the kind of value addition I can add to this market. And then, and it can be very basic, right? Now, to put meat to that, okay, professionals is one way if you can afford it. But if you can't, you have relationships around you.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
So you can begin working your relationships, but you work your relationships carefully, weighing that wisdom so that it's a bit inexpensive. It's good to talk to many people. Don't subscribe to these superstitious things of, when you tell many people your idea, they'll steal the idea, or, the chances of failure are increased because you're telling them. That's like old women tales, yeah? But strictly speaking, when you begin to speak to people, you begin to hear, because ultimately, these people are your market also.
All right.
So the feedback they are giving you is invaluable. I mean, how much does a cup of coffee take? Right?
Now, Stan, you brought up a very amazing thing. And yesterday we were having a particular training somewhere. So I brought in an old friend who conducted the training. And I was telling the team there that if we were doing this based on the professional level, the invoice would be so great. And I started saying, this is the power of relationships. And I use exactly what you said, like relationships are currency. You get a lot more done when you have relationships, so that somebody may charge you but not charge you if they would have charged anybody else professionally. But as you talk about that, do you think that sometimes people who have been employed, they don't invest much in relationships that would benefit them outside of employment?
Absolutely.
Because if I am working for this organization and Patricia is working for the organization, so we have this clique, and so because you don't work for that organization, all my friends are around me, I lose a job, I probably lose Patricia because now she's busy at work, we're not meeting as much as we would. then after losing the job, that's when I now start trying to form relationships with you and with Pauline. Do you think that people are guilty of that when they're too much in employment?
Absolutely, they are. Let me jump in. They are completely guilty, and what will happen is there are people who now, and this is a problem. After work, when somebody contacts me and we no longer share the same context, what will happen is you will feel that usury spirit come. You will feel like this guy is calling me because they need something from me. So we were really colleagues. You never invested in friendship, and the best way to invest in friendship is by getting concerned with what concerns those people over many years, right? Just the idea that I can add value to you so that you can build from colleagues to comrades. Because once you have comrades, you will begin to realize that things are done much easier. So I'm part of a startup currently that is trying to reimagine a very simple product. And what the founder of this particular business has done is that he has gathered around himself people who have, except me, people who have many years experience, 20, 25 years, 30 years experience. And we sit in this boardroom and we're like, okay, fine, we want to discuss EAB, we want to discuss Coca-Cola, we want to discuss whatever company comes in. Somebody's like, okay, I know the MD, I know the CFO, I know the HR, I know the corporate head of this and that, etc. and so on. So all of a sudden I begin to see that relationship management becomes very important throughout your life. Because whatever you do, including if you want to build a house at some point, you'll be shocked at what quotation you'll get from a friendly contractor as opposed to a normal contractor. And some things about relationships is, one, there are people who will change, for example, mentors or colleagues into loan sharks.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that you should never do. Right. Find a way to get your finances. We're talking about downscaling. Yeah? Nobody, once, if I ever asked you for money, worst, if I ever asked you for money and never paid it, then I come 10 years down the line with a company profile. I'm like, please introduce me to this organization. Most times you'll be like,
And I think what you have just asked is why job loss is painful.
Right.
It's because we are losing our social currency.
yeah, right.
I can no longer go to the places I used to go before. I can no longer meet the type of people I used to meet before. I do not have this clique that I used to have before. Now I call them and they're not able to pick my phone. So I agree with you that you have to be intentional in those relationships. And also it's important, you call them relationships, let me just call them network to be able to explain this. So you need to have professional networks and you also need to have personal networks. There are some personal networks at lower level that we take for granted, but we shouldn't, like someone who is a gatekeeper. Those people are very important in your life. They're the ones who will tell you someone was mugged at 5 p.m. So please, when you come home, try and come a bit earlier. So don't lose those people. Work on your personal networks and also work on your professional networks and be intentional about it. So that even after you lose your job, you can still call and then pick up. And also build yourself to be a network to other people so that
like
you do not just withdraw from them, but they withdraw from you as well.
That you yourself be a network. I think, again, the problem is this.
That's what Pauline was saying, that life is an echo, right? Whatever you throw,
that's what happens. There are people, for example, who are under you and you give them this good wisdom and they apply. The problem is, when somebody is like, oh, so CJ is now my network, then you begin behaving like you want to receive something shortly. This is completely annoying. I think the idea must be that you yourself, you're a network. For example, if one of my friends would call me and say, Stan, what do you think about, so I'm putting together a marketing plan. What do you think about this? I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll make some time. I'll put my best in that marketing plan to help you, right? So that, because all of us where we are today, we can be helped to somebody already.
That's true.
Right.
So being, first of all, a good connection yourself, right? That energy oozes to other people. Because also you don't want to also reduce professional interaction to, will I need you? Will I not need you? What do I need to do?
There's a certain adage people use a lot. I don't like it because in principle, people say, treat people well, you don't know who they will become. The reason I don't like it is, so what if they don't become?
This is the thing. That's precisely
I should treat you well because you are a human being.
There you go.
Not because I don't know who you will become. Because most of these things are very transactional. That means if I can foretell you're not going to become anybody in the future, then I can treat you anyhow. There's always a hidden agenda.
And the problem with that hidden agenda, it can be felt. You'll just know this person is very warm to me because of what they want to collect.
Right.
There's something they want to
I
collect.
think we can tweak that and
Right.
say, treat somebody the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
Not
Absolutely.
treat somebody because you want,
You don't
you're
know who they're
hoping
going
that
to become.
person
Yeah,
will
yeah,
become
yeah.
something in future,
Yeah,
or something.
And then they should now help you because they have now become something.
Yeah. In marketing, we like giving a lot of case studies and a lot of examples so that to bring the point home. I remember I traveled to this country, DRC Congo, and I didn't realize that I was just checking in. Then I went to the ladies, to the bathrooms, and there was this old lady cleaning, and I looked at her and I pitied her so much. And there was also another lady who came. You know the way ladies, we can have attitude.
Right.
So the lady is cleaning, instead of excusing yourself, you're there walking, and she was really mad. And then I apologized and I said, this lady must be struggling somewhere. So I gave her a little bit, a bill of $1, and I told her, okay, here, have it.
Yeah.
Then she was really shocked. And she shed a tear. She was like, my daughter, thank you. I didn't expect anything back.
Right.
And it was not like I walked into a CEO's office. This was a lady cleaning the bathrooms.
Right.
Then I checked in. Then I went to immigration, and woe unto me, my visa was expiring that day. So I was like, I think it's not a big issue. My visa is expiring and I'm flying back home. And I was told, no, you have to see our head of immigration. I was like, oh my God, in a foreign country, what am I going to do? And they didn't want to listen to me. Then they kept me somewhere for hours, and I was like, the good thing is that, as usual, the flight was late. So I'm taken to the head of immigration. Then I step in, and who do I meet? This lady who was cleaning the bathrooms is actually cleaning the head of immigration's office. And she asked me, what is the problem? And I told her, my visa is expiring today. And she talked in Kilingala with that guy, and the guy's mood changed.
Wow.
One, I was taken to a VIP lounge.
Wow.
Two, I was upgraded.
Yeah.
And you know, it's something that you don't expect that to happen from that single lady. But it's that small
On the
show
same
of
day.
kindness really doesn't know. So treat people the way you want to be treated. Even in a business forum, when you have a customer, we have this mantra in marketing, the customer is king. That is relationship from there.
Right.
That is what you start from. Whether you're selling anything, that is where you have to start from. Relationship.
Allow me to add to what you have said. I
Yes.
talked about personal network. I
Yes.
feel like that was that one, even though it was just for a few minutes.
Yes.
Because there are tea girls who will go and take tea at the CEO's office.
Yes.
They will listen to conversations you will never
Correct.
hear.
Yeah.
Excellent.
There's
Yeah.
someone right now who works where the president lives. They listen to conversations that we will never know for 20 years.
Yes.
So those small networks, they look like they're just cleaning the toilet. They
Yes.
just cook tea.
Yes.
They just make tea. Those are networks that we should never take for granted, because they
Correct.
will help us when least expected.
Yes.
And talk about Stan. Talk about this, because I asked it and I still need it to be addressed. The difficulty of trying to form relationships after.
Yeah.
You know, so now you're coming and you want to be forming this relationship with Stan.
Yeah.
Before he felt you're not there for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you come in and you're like, Stan, can we hang out at Pete's? And he's thinking, what has changed?
You know, the thing is, people say this, and it's becoming really true, that we are living in a very fake society.
Right.
And you find that relationships are very superficial, extremely superficial. So, for instance, when is the last time you took your friend shopping, for instance? That it has nothing to do with you. You are not going to benefit. It's actually going to take a lot of your time. When is the last time you actually gave? TD Jake said something that for him, he doesn't have many friends, because for him, what it means, if he's your friend, he's gonna bend backwards for you, right? So I think the idea then is that one, as you said, one key is that you have to yourself be a network, but number two, also you have to realize early that relationships matter. So that you reconfigure your predisposition as a person to always posture yourself as somebody who's willing to help, willing to connect, to be genuinely interested. Have you noticed that many people are pitching you about many things all the time? Do you care? Are you really interested? Do you get bored at people pitching you? Because shortly you will be the one pitching.
Right.
You'll be the one looking for people to help you.
Yeah.
Right? Now, of course, you don't want to be friendly and you don't want to be resourceful only because one day you will also need to be helped. I think you should be resourceful because being resourceful helps people.
Right.
And helping people is a plus for this society.
And that opens up doors eventually.
Yeah.
It does.
Patricia, right?
Yes, it does. I was laid off some time back. I was working for a non-governmental organization. So we were about 60 people, and then 30 of us were laid off. So the same day that I was laid off at around 2 p.m. And then I really had a very good relationship. Yes, I remember. It was very painful. You know, it was very painful, and allow me to bring in this aspect because sometimes people don't talk about it. It was painful because years later I realized it wasn't just because of performance, but it was because of who knows who.
Oh, goodness.
With time I realized it's because I did not have the proper godfathers. Because my work was good. And allow me to say this in all humility. When you give me work, I execute. And so that was good. So I was laid off at 2 p.m. At 8 a.m. I received a call the same day. At 8 p.m. I received a call to go and pilot a project in another county with the same organization. And who gave that network? My boss.
Wow.
It's important to have those relationships. So I don't also be a boss's, lack of a better word to use, pet. You know, but have relationship that they can look at you and they can say, this one will not disappoint. I can easily refer her.
Okay. Allow me just to step in a little bit, just to your question that you asked about relationship and starting over again. I tell people it's never late to start from anywhere. And you can build new networks. And you can just start. I know it all depends. I was just telling Stan and Patricia before we started that we have 4 kinds of personality in the world. And those personalities are different people's colors. We have a blue, we have a red, we have a yellow, and we have a green. So just understanding those people and how you relate to them is really important. I think that can be a discussion for another day, or people can really research on the different characteristics of people. Just starting all over again is never difficult. Sometimes we are hurt so much with the past relationship that we get scared of moving ahead. But when it comes to business, you can build relationship immediately. Just build them, gut them. That is your pillar for your business.
There you go.
Yeah.
But some people, sorry to stay there, then we'll go into, the strategies that people can apply as well. But some people usually feel like they've got to explain why they are where they are at. So they are afraid to actually even connect. Because they feel like Stan used to know, or Pauline used to know, that I was at this level in life, this company. So if I begin to hang out with you, you will ask what exactly went on. Or sometimes somebody's assuming you already know, because probably we shared networks and they think you already know. So even in the trying to build a new network, then they will hide a lot from their past, because their thinking is that when you're building the new, you completely hide the old. So they'll never say, I worked for this company, because then the next question would be, what happened? So you find that then these people are totally paralyzed. They cannot go back to old networks. They don't know how to go to the new networks without where they have been coming up. So they just closed. How do we help these guys?
You're talking about transition, right? Actually, what you're talking about is transition. At the end of the day, people don't trust you if they don't know your story. I don't think there is any story that is a bad story, ultimately. Because regretfully, as human beings, all of us have a story, right? And it's really important for us to begin to embrace our story, because there's nothing you will do that will erase what you have done or where you are coming from, right? But use that as a platform to take off. I don't think you should necessarily hide where you're coming from and what it is that you have been up to, where you have worked, and why is it that you left where you work, or why you were left, or why you were, why you were laid off, and so on. But you can be courageous enough to lay the facts out bare, and then use that as a springboard to take off. There's something that Pat said that struck me today. She talked about how you have to realize yourself. And she said, you have to be open enough to see where are you coming from. And what lessons, what are those things telling you about you. The most funny thing is you realize when you read this, I like reading books about why organization fail or why somebody failed and so on, right? Because failure has a lot of lessons to teach, right? Now, when you read these stories, you'll realize many people who are failing and continue to fail are very phony. The reason is it is always somebody else's fault. And that is why they can never tell their story. So this business didn't work, it was not their fault. This employment didn't work, it was not their fault. This relationship, it was not their fault. They didn't do well in school, even that was not their fault, right? So that kind of attitude, you'll notice nobody trusts that kind that kind of, and you will notice also, just one more key, that people who you are very open to give a lot of help to, you know something about them. You will not easily introduce me to Unilever, for example, if you know nothing about me. Because you're like, I'm introducing you, that door is opening on the back of my name. So when that door opens, what will they experience in encountering you? So your story is your story, embrace it.
All right. Emmy Joy, sorry, but let me just recognize a few people as well. Emmy Joy, thank you for watching. Mariwa Wairegi, thank you for watching. That's Emmy Joy watching from Texas. Mariwa Wairegi from Dubai. Geoffrey Emungat quoting, fear doesn't kill death, it kills life. Is that quoting Patricia? All right. Life is an echo. Chilson Vidolo saying life is an echo, it gives you what you give it. Quoting Pauline. Build yourself to be a network to others. That's Faith Kyoku quoting Stanclaus right here. Samuel Omondi Ojino, Daktari, good to see you over here as well. Let me just see who's tuned in as well. Queen Olo tuned in. Victoria Musimi tuned in as well. All right, Patricia.
Yes, in psychology we use a very, very powerful tool. It's called self-disclosure.
Okay.
And so sometimes when you're with a client and you assess, you decide, let me also disclose what I went through.
Absolutely.
So if it is job loss, the client is able to understand that he is not or she is not the only one who's gone through this. Because other people have gone through it as well.
Yeah.
The world right now is looking for authentic people.
Right.
So whoever is listening to us out there and wants to build networks again, I think it's very important for them to know that it's okay to say that you lost job. It's okay to say that you failed in one way or the other.
Right.
Actually, the people who have huge organizations right now, they failed horribly several times. I personally have failed in very many areas of my life, but those failures are actually the milestones that people pick, and they say, I want to become like, or I want to become like CJ,
Got it.
because we went through this and he overcame it.
Right,
So be authentic, and then also just disclose, talk about it.
I love what you're saying, because I hold this thought that, you know, authenticity is better than perfection, and perfection will not be attained. But authenticity, you can attain that.
Yes.
You own your story, you tell your story, you own the narrative. You'll always, you know, you'll always be you. Like when we come on the set, we know that Stan will talk. And then we're, well, today he's only hijacking Patricia's. And then we get to appreciate that fact that, you see, that's Stan. If you try to become somebody else, that wouldn't work, you know. So a lot of people then must understand, you don't owe the world perfection, but you owe the world authenticity. Just be authentic. Does it mean there's room for improvement? Yes. You will improve, you will learn, you will grow, you will get to know the things that you need to know as well as you keep on going. That's Jack Tyson Owens. What can you do? Here comes the question. What can you do when it comes to competition as far as business is concerned, like having the same product at the same place? Pauline, you want to take that?
Yes, I want to take that.
I'm coming next.
Okay. Oh, great. I mean, he's really summarized. Rev has really summarized the kind of personality you are, but it's really great. Let me start. Competition will always be there.
All right.
And competition, take it as a push to you to go to the next level.
All right.
So competition will be there. What you need to do is market intelligence. Let competition give you sleepless nights. What are they doing next?
Okay.
Sleepless nights in terms of what products are they stocking? What is their target customers? What is their pricing level? What is their advertising and communication strategies? So let you understand what they're doing. So competition is there just to give you a push and to just keep you always on your toes. So you will never avoid it. It's something that will always be there.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Jack, I think I want to say congratulations that you are in business. I think that's an amazing step. For somebody to be in business, this is already impressive. So well done, man. I believe strongly that Africa will be built by business people and entrepreneurs, not necessarily politicians, right?
Yes.
Now, so competitive strategy.
What about employees? Where do they fall?
I know you're taunting me, but I won't enter that ring right now, Chris. I want to discuss competitive strategy shortly. So competitive strategy, if you're going to compete in the 21st century, I like what Pauline has done, that the competition will push you Now, it should push you to decide, how do you want to compete? Do you want to compete on price? Or do you want to compete on differentiation? Or do you want to compete in both? So there's a Harvard professor that is called Porter, and Michael Porter has come up with a competitive model, as it were, and he suggests in that paper, and this is being used by big organizations, that you can compete. You can compete on price, or you can compete on differentiation. Now, that was 1985. That is when he wrote this paper. But now, in the year 2005, another idea has come which is bigger than that. And that idea is that you have to choose which ocean you are in. I'm sure you've heard about that. So it's either you're in the blue ocean or you're in the red ocean. Now, blue ocean companies make the competition irrelevant by competing on value points where the competition is not competing on. So case in point, you might find that all of you are selling bread, for instance, and all of you are selling, you are price takers, because perfect competition implies you have to take the price that the market gives you. You can't set the price. So all of you are selling at the same price, and they're competing, they're offering only price value. But now you can design your product or redesign your product in a way that you begin offering other secondary value as opposed to price value alone. So you can say, for example, that my bread, in as much as it's the same price with everybody else, my bread has added multivitamins, for instance, or my bread is made by women who are pregnant. I don't know if that's good value. Or buying this bread,
it has a sentimental value.
It has some sentimental. It has some sentimental value, right? Or my bread is made from the packaging of our bread is 100% recyclable, for example. Or my bread comes with, I don't know, a QR code that gives you free revision material. Basically, what you're trying to do is you are trying to introduce other competing points that your competitor is not competing on. That's number one thing that you must do, and you must do very quickly. Number two, niche your product. Why? Because what happens then is, if you're going to sell a product and to sell it profitably, of course you have a market. Now, the wider that market is, the wider your value proposition is, and when it comes to customer value proposition match, it becomes very difficult when you are meeting so many people. But if you are to reduce the niche of your market, then you can define their needs more specifically, and you can build a product that fits that need even more accurately. Now, when a customer receives a product that exactly meets their need, they are willing to pay anything for it. So that's how you deal with competition from a scientific point of view.
So, okay, and I bring it back into perspective, because we're dealing with people who are losing jobs as well. So when I lose a job and I'm thinking of how I need to go forward, and I'm trying to create my strategies, I also need to find out what is my competitive advantage.
Absolutely. You have to define your competitive advantage. You will notice those organizations, and I want to introduce a word here, that have defined sustained competitive advantage. These are the organizations who will grow their bottom line year in, year out. And competitive advantage is all about uniqueness and what Pauline says all the time, and clarity, delivery of value proposition. Your value proposition must be delivered every day. In fact, all the time, any meeting you come into, you must discuss, what are we offering the market? What are we offering the market? Is this meeting the needs of the market?
Well, Patricia, when people talk about training, Pauline said research is very costly, and she preempted me because I wanted to ask whether the ordinary person can actually afford research. But then it's good that she said you can actually do that by yourself. You can always get info. But when we talk about training, so maybe I have only known one particular skill for a long time, or maybe that's what I have used. I may have other skills, but for 20 years probably, I have had to use just one skill, and I want to reskill. I don't have too much money. I want to reskill. How does a trainer help me?
What I'd say is try and invest in transferable skills.
Okay.
Because these are needed at close, and these are soft skills. A skill like negotiation, that is a skill that every single person needs. A skill like communication, right now it's needed almost everywhere. So invest so much in the transferable skills, and also none of us was born empty. We all have
That's true.
about 5 skills. About 5 skills of
Wow.
gifts, the innate ones. For example, I can sing. I know CJ doesn't know that. But when all goes bad, you know,
Yeah.
when the rubber hits the road, I can
Yes.
go and decide to be a background vocalist.
That's true.
So look at the 5 skills that you have. If you don't know them, ask even
Have you
people
just
around
applied for a job from me subtly like that?
So ask people around you, and out of these 5, what can you be able to do? Because you must begin from somewhere. Yes, you have been laid off. Begin from somewhere. And the somewhere may not be at the place where you are. It may actually be low. But just pick yourself again and begin. Because you must also have that inner ability to be able to bring yourself down when you are extremely excited and be able to pull yourself up when you're low.
You know, interesting that you talk about that. Pauline, as you weigh in on that,
Yes.
I want you to also weigh in on the thought of mostly when we go out into business.
Yes.
So I used to be, for example, a CEO, a general manager. I used to be a mid-level manager.
Yeah.
Then I want to do business. I know you spoke about that last week a bit, but I
Yes.
want it emphasized. When I'm checking out for the product, I feel like sometimes we're looking for a product that we would buy
Yes.
because we want status.
Yes.
So I'm feeling like there's no way people have known me to be a general manager and I'm going to sell vegetables by the road over there.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm in a place where the vegetable would do very well.
Very
Would
well,
you just weigh in on that?
Okay. I just wanted to jump in a little bit and just I agree with what Patricia said. And just to add what you mentioned also about skills, just what skills that you need to retrain about, we also need partnerships.
All right.
For instance, I'm in a place that I need a strategist and I have a business idea. It's really important that I call my friend Stan and tell Stan, I've heard about you, you're a guru in strategy, could you partner this? Sharing ideas is very important, and that's what we spoke a lot about relationship. So that partnership is really important. So even people should think about it so much. When you think about starting a business right now, think about who you can partner. And I like the concept of chamas and merry-go-round groups. There are a lot of skills there that you can go around. I have some people that I know, they're men, they started their own chama and they were like, we collect money every month, what else can we do? And one was a marketer, one was a strategist, one was a tech person, and what they did, they started producing skincare products and it's doing very well in the market. And that's a chama, so they partnered with different skills and they came together. So that is very important. And just to come to your question, Rev, is about, probably I was a CEO somewhere. You know, sometimes we are really ashamed of what people will say about us. You know what? Our past should be our side mirror in when you're driving cars. I think in one forum people said, someone said that our past and whatever we did should be a side mirror that will help us still look behind where we're coming from, but still look in front where we're heading to. So let's forget about that status thing for a while. We've lost a job. We need to feed our children. We will not tell our children that, you know what, I had to put on a cape and goggles to go and sell potatoes somewhere so that I give you bread. I mean, by the end of the day, it is the bread that is required in the house. It doesn't matter how I got that bread. And those people who are judging you by your status will not bring that bread on your table.
Right.
So let's not be ashamed of who you are and just do whatever we can to bring that bread on the table. That's what I can advise them.
All right.
Yeah.
Stan, you want to say something?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to say on the idea of skills. So I did a small workshop like 2 weeks ago, you might have seen it, and I was discussing what are the skills that are needed or what are the skills for the future, as it were. And the interesting thing is, so World Economic Forum did a study and just what they're trying to project the future, grappling with the future and seeing, okay, what skills are needed for the future. Now, the interesting, shocking thing is those 10 skills, which I want to read them very fast, all of them are what she said are innate and should be developed. None of them is taught in any school, right? So the first one is problem solving. Can you imagine that the number one skill is actually problem solving? That people who have honed how to solve problems, these are the same people who will be world leaders tomorrow. Now, think about even today, if you're married, you already have an opportunity to solve a problem this very evening, I'm sure. Number two, number two, critical thinking.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Number three, creativity. creativity as a skill. I mean, that means anybody is skilled for this. Number 4, people management. Are you able to team play? Are you able to form relationships? Are you able to communicate? Number 5, coordinate. Can you imagine coordinating with others as a skill? That just being part of a team. Do you know these annoying people, don't say me, who are in a group and they want to hijack the whole group, and they, it's like there's no teamwork, right? People management, coordinating with others. Number 6, emotional intelligence as a skill. That there are people who completely have no idea of context and they just say anything, Number 7, judgment and decision making. Number 8, service orientation. We talked about that today, that what can I do for you, that posture where you always want to value add. Number 9, negotiation. You talked about negotiation. And number 10, cognitive flexibility. The idea that you don't have to fix your mind. Actually, Solomon said, only a fool doesn't change his mind. So top 10 skills by World Economic Forums of the future.
And that anybody can have that.
Anybody. You don't need school for this.
Yeah, you don't need school for any one of those.
That's shocking.
Hezron Mark has a question. Is it right to pay your wife if you operate the same family business? Pauline, is it right for a wife to be paid in family business?
I think, Hezron, thank you very much. I have to jump in very fast. There is a reason, yeah?
So we know those people who jump in.
You know those people, yeah. So Hezron, thank you for that question. Again, congratulations that you're in a business. That is way to go. It purely depends on structure, right? Business owners earn dividends, employees earn salary. So structure your business right. So if both of you are business owners, you should earn dividends, and that's provided for. If you are the business owner and your wife as an employee, then she should be on payroll. Now, if your wife is doing neither of the above, you should share with her your dividends.
Is the wife supposed to be employed by the husband? Patricia, do you think that would work?
I think it depends with a couple. There are couples who I have seen are probably not able to work together, and it's not in a bad way. They just love their space differently, and then they come home together, and now they can be partners. And then there are couples who are able to work together because they know how to wear different hats. So when they're at home, it is husband, wife. Elsewhere, maybe the husband is the coach and the wife is the one who's being coached, or they are both employees. So it depends with a couple.
Yes. If I might just jump in, Hezron, it all starts with what agreement you start with. So what did you start with? What role does she play? What value does she bring to the company? What agreement do you have with her? So she
shouldn't just come in because she's the wife.
No, she's of course she's the wife.
Yeah,
let's say she's the wife.
I shouldn't just bring her in because she's my wife. You are asking what value.
Yes, so I'm asking, does she add value? Probably she's the marketer there. She's head of marketing. Probably she's the accountant there. So if that is the role she's doing, go ahead and pay her, because if it was somebody else, if you brought Pauline in your company, you'd be paying Pauline for a marketing job. You'd be paying Stan for a strategist job. Patricia for a consulting job. So what role does she bring to the company? So that's where the first step you start with. What value is she bringing to the company? Are you in agreement? It's not paying because she's my wife and sitting back home. I mean, there's a business to run. Let's start from there. Let's not bring sentiments in our business. Let's not bring relationship because what Stan said the other time, I love you, I like you, all what. So I remove some money. There has to be a value exchange.
Yes. And I was laughing while you were talking because I'm trying to imagine. So this man has a wife who is at home. She feels like my husband runs this huge business. Why are you not giving me something to do? And then the husband says, I don't think you're adding value to the
My goodness.
Do you think...
I think also when you decide to employ your wife, or when you decide that you people are going to go into partnership, at the back of your mind, subconsciously, you must understand the fact that when things go wrong, are you able to shout at her? Are you able to correct her? Can you actually sit her department down and tell them, you people are not doing work as you should? So you should have that at the back of your mind. So if you're willing and you're ready to do that, then go ahead. If you're not, then rethink.
Interesting. But I'm just wondering, what kind of corporate governance do you have where you have to ask yourself the question, should I hire my wife or not? I think corporate governance will guide. Like if you have a business, as she said so ably, it's a purely issue of value proposal. Are you bringing value to the company? If you are, absolutely come. And it's either you're coming in as an owner where you have to invest equity, or you're coming in as an employee where you send your CV and we look at it. So if you are in the business, it's either you're an employee or you're a business owner.
All
So
right.
if you're neither, then don't give her the money. You're killing your business.
And I'm just going to push one more question, then we wind up. And it's been a cold day today, so I'm just going to push one more question. And especially with the elements like of family business, where somebody feels, well, you've brought in your spouse, whether it's a husband or the wife. And sometimes the sentiments, they started with you, they were helping you because you needed somebody else, you could not pay an employee, not because they had the skill set that you required, but they would be cheap labor in whichever way, they were just helping you. And then as you begin to grow, you begin to bring in people who have the skill set you require, and then the spouse begins to feel like they're being pushed aside.
Yeah.
What transition needs to happen there?
Do you want to take it up? Is that?
I like that idea. So I think to answer your question, Chris, is when you started, right? Somebody said things don't go wrong,
Yes.
things start wrong, right? When you started, what was the expectation? Of course, it is obvious that if I start a business with my wife, for example, and I'm like, you will handle marketing, I will handle strategy and finance, let's work, right? Let's build this, and then when we're able to employ people, you see already I'm defining the expectation. We can employ people, and then we can really get to board and so on and so forth. I think the idea really is, how did you start and what did you plan for the business? Okay? But remember, as business owners, if both of you are business owners and both of you have put in capital, it means that both of you have right to determine where that business is going, right? And even decisions like, should we hire a marketing person or not, or should I continue doing a marketing person? If you are objective where you started today, if you are objective enough, you should be able to answer those questions, because the angle you're bringing, Chris, is a very emotional and psychosocial angle. And I'm not a big person of emotions and this psychosocial. I know they are important. I know mental health is very important. I know these emotions, people's emotions should be taken care of and so on. But I'm more of an objective person. I don't know what
What CJ is saying is also very practical, because it really
It happens.
happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
It happens because, for example, I run the marketing department, and then a new person comes in, and then my husband now tends towards the new person, and not in a bad way. But the
Yes.
truth is, their skills are way higher than mine, so my husband tends towards them. Then
Yes.
now what happens? So I think what he's saying is very practical. As much as we want to be objective, it is actually happening right now, and we even have someone who's listening to us who is there.
Yes. Yeah. If I may jump in, I really agree on what you are saying. But I'm just thinking, when you were discussing Patricia and Stan, I just want to give an example about the Asian family-owned businesses. All of them work there. Sister, brother, grandmother, grandfather,
good point.
all of them work there, isn't it?
successful.
Right.
And they are very successful. And how do they start? I was talking to one of the my Asian friend, and he was telling me, when my son left college, he started from the factory level. I didn't want him to start from the C-suite. Told the father, I was the owner, and my father started the company. But the father right now cannot run because he's very old. So I started my son to understand the business so well. So the question that I'll throw back to the person asking this question is, what role do you want your wife to have? It's really important when even the husband is not there. For instance, something happens, a natural cause comes in, the husband is no longer in the business, the wife can run the business, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's that thought about continuity.
Alright.
One, there's another risk factor, that are you able, both of you, to agree that you've given me this role as an accountant, I'm not an accountant by training, but I'm willing to step down for somebody else to come in. So it starts with the purpose of that person being there. Am I standing for somebody? Let me know at that particular moment. Am I standing for the continuity of the business? Let me then enrich my skills. Learn more about accounting, learn more about finance 101, learn everything. Then in case of sustaining the business, I'm standing in there. So it's a catch-22.
All right.
Yes.
So then I think the system and the structure needs to be so
Very
firm,
clear, yes.
in a way that nobody
I
can
like
just
that
system
walk
and
around it.
structure,
Here.
Yes, correct.
All right. Okay. Well, we never get to finish. So we will have another conversation one at a time, probably a different angle, different perspective, but we will have that one at a time. Good to see you, Joe Yeshua, saying enjoying the show and laughing and saying true. Whichever thing you say is true is true. Yeah, but it's been such a joy bringing this discussion and the conversation into your comfortable space, whether you are home or you're still at work right now, sitting somewhere with friends. It's been such a delight to bring this conversation to you. The purpose of the conversations is to actually have you have conversations, not to completely give you answers, but to have you have the conversations, think about them. Like just at the last point that we were talking about right here, some families need to get into business meetings tonight and start talking about, move away from the place of husband and wife and then just have a business meeting over there and talk about systems and structures that you're going to set. But always a pleasure. So follow us on every social media platform, CJ Atemo everywhere, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because then you will get to watch this video over and over and over. Get the 10 skills that Stanclaus talked about, which you don't even need to go to school for, or just identify them within you so you can go out there and use them wherever you are. The conclusion of the matter is that wherever you are, you can start again, whether it is in creating the social networks or business, wherever you are, making adjustments, you can start again. So the loss of the job, that's not the end of your life. Whether you're 53, 75, or whatever it is, you can start again. But for those of you who are still working, also invest in social capital as well. That just kept on coming over and over. Invest in social capital, be there for people, call people, hang out with people. Don't just give people blue ticks, say hi back, because it becomes very crazy when later on, when you don't have a job, you're so available online and guys become very suspicious. So develop all of those around you. Please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, share them everywhere, and follow as well all my panelists today, the jury. Please give your social media handles.
Thank you.
Yours is Patricia Speaks?
Yes, it's Patricia Speaks. Instagram and Twitter is at Patricia Speaks 3. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Patricia Speaks.
Okay. Stanclaus.
And mine is Stanclaus Agacho on all platforms, including YouTube. Please subscribe.
All right.
Okay. Mine on Twitter, Pauline Mwatu, and also on Instagram, Pauline Mwatu, and Facebook, Kaluki Mengo.
I wasn't very sure about your Twitter handle.
Okay.
I wasn't very sure because there's no picture there.
There is, Chris, there is. I'm so active on Twitter.
Are you active on Twitter?
Yes.
But when I check out, are you serious?
Yes, thank you for supporting me. Absolutely.
When I checked out,
Which one are you using?
Better than yours. But when I checked out, because I would get this unless it's an older one.
Yes.
I was checking out for Pauline Mwatu.
Yes.
So I wasn't very sure, so I didn't want to tag the wrong person.
Okay, we need to catch base on after this.
All right.
Okay.
All right. But please follow on the social media platforms. Great wisdom over here. Pauline is big with marketing research and training, business strategies. Stan does the same, and he's got something going on YouTube as well. A lot of business talks that he does over there. Patricia Speaks, corporate training and branding, personal development, life coaching, a lot that is sitting up over here. So please follow and make the connection if you would so desire. That has been all the time we've had right here from the Pete's Connected Coffee, Highland Suites on Chania Avenue today. And see you again next time on the CJ's Court.